Hi guys, so for today's newsletter video, it is the Q&A answer portion of the Q&A and also announcing who the winner was for that. I'm going to go ahead and start with whoever the winner is for the video. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen. Alrighty, the winner is... Yay! Jumping into the Q&A though, you guys asked really amazing questions and I want to try and get to all of them, and in order to do that I think I'm gonna have to split the video up into two videos, so I'll do half the questions today and then half in the next newsletters video. Some of your questions were a little similar, if not exactly the same, so for those ones I'm gonna group them together for time's sake. The first question is, as a musician, for those who don't know, I went to school for music and my job is that I'm a private violin teacher. So the question says, as a musician, do you imagine the kind of theme that would be playing in the background of the scenes of the book, or do you associate a certain style of music with your characters? I 100% imagine music for a lot of the scenes. In fact, sometimes the music is what inspires the scenes. I have a whole playlist on my website of music that kind of inspired the book, or the scenes in the book I feel are reflected really well in those pieces of music. So if you guys are interested in seeing kind of almost like a soundtrack, I'll have it linked down below. The next question is one of those ones where I tried to group together multiple questions, and it says, what got you into writing and what are your inspirations? I don't know that I can say anything in particular got me into writing. I used to write a lot as a kid, but I wrote in secret because I was kind of a weirdo as a kid. My family is very normal and I am very into weird fantasy stuff. We don't think it's weird, but my family isn't really into that kind of stuff. So I used to write in notebooks and I hid them in my closet, and I didn't do it because of anything in particular. I just always had story ideas in my head and I would write them down, and I didn't want my family to think I was a freak and like find them and be like, what is this? And plus the stories I wrote when I was younger were probably garbage, so another reason to have kept them a secret. Next question is, how old was I when I started writing, and how old was I when I knew I wanted to be a writer? And like I said, I wrote a lot as a kid. I can't even pinpoint a specific age. I know one time I was dog sitting for my mom and I found this old story I wrote about a dolphin, and it is so funny. So maybe one of these days I can do a video where I read you guys one of my stories as a kid because it was hilarious. The next question is, did I ever have moments where I wanted to quit, I thought about quitting, and if I did, how did I overcome that? So I feel really bad, but I never had a moment where I was like, I give up, this is too hard, I don't want to do this. I really am a committed person, and when I commit to something, I'm very serious about it. So, and that's the case with everything. I hate not being good at things. I don't mind being bad at things that I have no interest in, but if I have an interest in something, I will pursue it. There is no, what if I'm bad? Because I know I'm gonna suck at first, and I hate that, but it's part of the process. So I don't ever think about giving up because I know I'll just continue to get better if I work at it. The next question has to do with writer's block, so a little bit different than giving up. People asked, have I ever gotten writer's block? If I get writer's block, do I think it's best to push through it, or how do I handle it, or do I think it's best to take some time away? And as of right now, I'm a bit conflicted when it comes to writer's block. I would say I don't get writer's block, but that's because writing isn't my career yet. I find time to write when I can write, and I don't hold myself too strictly to I have to write every day or anything like that, because it's not my job. I have a job. I have a full-time job. I have other priorities at the moment. That said, when I have made goals for myself to find time to write and I sit down to write and I find that stuff just isn't coming, because sometimes that can happen, I find that I would say it's healthy to at least try, because even if you end up deleting everything you wrote, you at least know what isn't going to work, and I think that that is still beneficial. I try to look at things in a positive way, so even if I scrap everything and I hate it and I think, oh, this sucks, at least I know what's not going to work, and the next time I sit down to write, I'll have a better idea of what maybe will work. The next question has to do with whether or not I ever did any research for my book, and then also do I recommend any resources for any of you that are interested in writing? And I would say I did a lot of research when it came to the mechanics of writing and the craft of writing, and if any of you are interested in looking into more of that in general, if you just type in anything about writing, how to write dialogue, how to write good descriptions, how to write physical, if you just type in anything, you can find a lot of people that have really great advice. And then on top of that, Sanderson has his lectures online, even if you don't love Sanderson's works. He's a professional writer, and so he has a lot of really great advice that's free. You can find it for free online. I also did a lot of research about self-publishing versus traditionally publishing so I could get an idea of which route I wanted to pursue, and then getting very specific as far as are there any things in my book that I had to research. There are 2 things, and one of them's really gross and then one of them's fairly normal. Neither of these things, when you read the book, will even seem like I did research for them because they're not specific whatsoever. In fact, it's kind of just what's happening in the scene while characters are talking or something to that extent. It's kind of like an in the background thing. And one of them is a character is patching up somebody's wound. I know absolutely nothing about that kind of stuff. I have no knowledge of the medical field, so I thought it was necessary to at least have an idea of how to go about that. And that's the fairly normal one. The kind of gross one is that at one point the characters in one of the first couple chapters are hunting, and then they kill the animal, and then they're gonna skin the animal, and I know nothing about that. So I watched a video about like how to skin a deer and stuff. It was a little icky, but I mean, I got through it. This next question I absolutely love. It's how do you make your story original? I mean, I know every in parentheses fantasy story has some sort of likeness to something else, but how do you come up with that something extra that makes your book stand out? For me, I think characters. I mean, there's so many people in the world, and what are the chances that I'm ever going to find another person that is exactly the same as me? And I think that's true of books as well. You have to make the characters come to life. You really have to make the characters seem distinct. I think when it comes to the fantastical elements of the book, a lot of the magic systems or things of that sort are going to have some similarities, even if the magic itself is really unique. There's going to be something about it that's similar to some other fantasy books' magic system, but I think something that you can do to make it really unique is figure out how it affects the characters in that world, how it affects the world in general. And I think it's going to be different in a lot of different, you can make it so different. You can make it, like, for example, if somebody has the ability to use fire, are those people hated because of their power? Are they revered because of their power? Are they looked at as individuals that people should worship? I mean, looking at how the world can think of those people, and then how does that affect that person? And there's so many ways you can go into that. This next question is one of the most unique questions I've ever seen. It says, my question is, how do you cope when writing in the perspective of an evil character? Does it leave you feeling moody or drained afterwards? So in this first book, none of the perspectives are 100% evil. That's not to say there aren't characters that you're gonna love to hate in the book. There is one character that pretty much every beta is like, either this person's gonna stick around because we all hate this person, or they're gonna die because I don't know if we can handle them. I mean, there is a character that's pretty disgusting, and thinking about what would motivate that person, and it's more their profession. I don't want to give too much away, but their profession is a dark one. And for me, I had to think about, like, what if this person liked what they did for a living? Thinking about that, it definitely didn't leave me moody or anything. I have to almost look at it as something interesting, I suppose. Like, why are they like that? You still should think that they're disgusting and terrible, but like, why are they like that though? The next question is one that I definitely had some other questions that were similar, and it says, when did you first come up with the concept of your book, and how long did it take you to go from the conceptualization to actually deciding to write the book? I have had many of the stories that I'm working on in my mind for a long time, but they have changed dramatically because I've had them in my head since I was a lot younger, and I've lived life a lot more now, and so I have a lot of different feelings towards a lot of things. So I would say that a lot of the ideas have been around, but as far as with this book specifically, when it really started to take form is when I had this job over the summer after my freshman year. So it was between my freshman year and my sophomore year of college, and it was the most boring job in the world. All the job entailed was I would take a stack of paper that was stapled together, I would take the staple out, and I'd put it in a scanner, and then I'd get the next one ready by taking the staple out, and then I would just wait for the first one to finish being scanned. I would name it in the computer, and then I would go ahead and do the same thing for the next one. It was the most mindless job I've ever had. I did that 8 to 9 hours a day, and I had a lot of time to think because, I mean, there was nothing else going on, and so I don't know what most people think of when they have that much time to think, but for me it was thinking of my story. So that's when the concept of it all started to come together, and then, I mean, it was just stream of consciousness by the time I got around. I'd come home and try to get it out. It was just a lot of ideas, and it wasn't good at first. I had to figure out a lot of the pieces, but I would say that's that's how I initially started the book. This next question is so hard for me to answer. It says, if you had to humbly compare yourself to a fantasy writer, dead or alive, who would it be? You can relate it to your writing style, your writing process, perhaps your ideas or magic systems, or all of it. I have to say it is very hard for me to give that answer because, I mean, you know, you don't want to compare yourself to really other great writers and try to like basically put yourself up there. But I will say that I've had a few beta readers tell me that not in tone at all, but in the different types of like families in the story, that it reminds them a little of Game of Thrones, which is very flattering. And then I had one person say they can see the Sanderson influences in my writing, which is really funny because I wrote the whole book before I read any Sanderson. Another question I got is, am I a plotter or a pantser? And I would absolutely say I'm a combination. I have certain elements of the story plotted out. I have certain elements of the next book's very, very, very clear in my mind, but I leave some things up in the air because I find that while I'm writing, if I stick way too much to the outline, then it starts to feel very mechanical. It doesn't feel natural. It starts to feel like everything's just working for that plot point instead of feeling like that's what the characters would actually do, that's what the characters would actually say. So I like to leave some breathing room, but I do have some things definitely planned out. The last question I'm going to answer today is, do I have any other projects that I'm working on, and can I give any details about that? And I absolutely have other projects in mind, not just the continuation of this series, which that's already been started, but also some other projects that I want to tell you guys about. I so badly want to tell you guys about that, but that's going to be saved for a future video. That's it for the first part of the Q&A. Thank you to all of you for asking such amazing questions. You guys really came up with fantastic questions. It's been so fun to think through and answer these. But anyway, I will see you in next newsletter's video. Bye.